It's a hot debate in many cases. When should a senior citizen stop driving? Should they be forced to surrender their license at a certain age, or should it be a decision left up to the individual?
Well, here to help us navigate these waters and take on these issues, aging expert Anthony Cirillo. Hello, sir, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Anthony, let's start with this. Why is this such an emotionally charged issue?
Well, let me just say, so here's some car keys. So what if I asked you right now, just give me your keys for a day. Give me them for a couple days. How about a month? Maybe anything worse would be taking your phone, probably. So that's, you know, you starting to see that, how would you feel? You know, so that's,
I wouldn't like it.
Exactly, exactly. So a car actually means different things to different people. For some, it's getting around. For others, it's status and identity. Others, it's spontaneity and freedom. And so as you look at that, that'll be how you start to look at this issue and frame it when you have to have some of these discussions. And it's also important to remember that, you know, not every senior, just because you're a certain age and whatever people define as seniors these days, you know, probably gets younger, you're a bad driver. I mean, I drove here from Huntersville, so, you know, I see bad drivers all the time. Plus, I think the turn signal was outlawed in North Carolina for some reason, but that's a whole nother story.
Well, how can you tell when a person is starting to have some trouble driving?
So the best thing is to observe directly if you're brave enough, obviously, to get in the car with somebody. But the other thing is, if you do that, distinguish between what's really serious and what's not. So, you know, driving on the brake versus not knowing the brake from the gas. That's serious. That's serious. Right? So, you know, struggling to change lanes, making left turns, driving too slow or too fast, reaction time, other people honking, hitting curbs. My mother liked to take out trash cans at some point. Also look for self-correcting things. My mother, ingeniously actually, figured out every route to take by taking all right turns. So, you know, good for her. She got where she was going. But also, if you're a long-distance caregiver, you might want to check with people and friends who are nearby or their physician as well. So that's, you know, you starting to see the signs.
Is there a certain age recommended for giving up your license, or does it really just depend on the individual? Well,
again, you saw Prince Philip at 97, you know, getting into a couple accidents, and the Queen probably got in his face and said, all right, hand it over. So, you know, what's a good age? We know people are driving. You said your mom's driving in her 80s, right?
Yes,
so,
she is.
You know, everybody's different. Everybody's physiology and emotional, mental states are different. So, you know, it's hard to regulate, but there are some things in place in the Carolinas. When you're 70 and over, you have to show up in person. 65 and over, or 66 and over, you only get the license for 5 years. And you could be ordered to have a DMV reevaluation by a physician or an EMT, or maybe at the request of a family.
Well, here it is. Here's a problem. How do I start that conversation without belittling maybe my parents or someone that's older and give them still their identity and their power, independence?
Well, pretty much what I say every time on this show is, don't wait for the crisis to happen. All these conversations should happen sooner than later. And you have to do it over time, and you have to look for openings. Like today's a great opening to talk about somebody about driving because of the weather. So, you know, there's going to be something, Larry, or somebody's going to report on the weather, there's going to be an accident, and say, you know, Mom, maybe you should, do you drive in this kind of weather? Maybe you shouldn't, you know. So it's looking for openings like that. You don't want to gang up. Studies have shown the best person to have this conversation is the spouse and then adult children. And you want to have empathy. So let's go back to those things that are important for having a car. If the car is important for getting around to somebody, then you look at alternate transportation options, if you can. If it's about status and identity, then you think about, well, let's keep the car. Park it in the driveway, park it on the curb. Maybe the home health aide can use it with that person to get around. And so that becomes a different dynamic, but it holds to what's important to them. And if it's about spontaneity, let's say, you know, somebody gets in the car, let's go take a ride. You know, there's also AARP has talking to older drivers, so that's another resource people might want to look at.
I bet that's helpful. Yeah. So ultimately, if you have to take away the keys, then what? Are there some ways to sort of ease that transition for the senior? Well,
obviously, there's alternate transportation that's creeping up, you know, between Uber and Lyft, and they also are looking into senior transportation as well. That's certainly important. You also want to seek to see, can you keep them in the car in a safe way? So don't drive at night, don't drive in freeways, don't drive in bad weather, go to just designated places. And just one thing for caregivers is that realize that when you become somebody becomes not able to drive, you become the chauffeur, and that takes a toll on caregivers as well. So it's prudent to actually look for alternatives.
It's an important conversation to have. Anthony, thank you so much.
Always.
For more information, go to theagingexperience.com, theagingexperience.com.